Hello, guys. Welcome. Happy Tuesday. Shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, and Twitter. Greetings, all. I want to give shout outs to people in the chat. Let's see who is here. Oh, lots of comments. What's going on? Cryptician says, I wonder why so many leftists are talking down on Bernie Sanders a lot lately. Let me see. Maybe it's because he stopped fighting and started supporting everything he campaigned against. Wow. Good words there, Cryptician. Shout out to CBC Voter. Heads up Wednesday tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific time. Graham Elwood interview Susie Dawson, aka Panquake. Bring questions for her to answer. That is good to know, CBC Voter. Please let me know if that's going to be on Rockfin or YouTube. If you can put that in the chat, that will be helpful. Thank you. And welcome, Kim. Hey, Sabby Sabs. Good to see you. Shout out to Hannah G says, Sabby. Hannah. Shout out to Justin Johnson, Groob, RBM fam. I hope I said that correctly. What's going on, Justin? Greetings. Cecily says, Bernie warns against screwing over progressives. Hillary warns Dems against far left turn. Bernie called out the Clintons. Out in a recent video titled, Let's Stand Up for Workers, the feuding continues. Well said, Cecily there. What is going on? I see you. I see you too. Bernie shouldn't be warning the damn Dems about anything. He should have warned us about the Dems, period. Oh boy. What's going on? Yipper99 gives a shout out to I see you. I see you. What's going on, Malik? Hey, I'm early this time. Greetings and welcome. Let's see who else is here. What's going on? Lawrence Johnson says, doobie doobie doo. Always great to see you as well. Greeting, Desert Mantis says, Sabby's in the building. I'm here. Whoop, 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 whoop. Shout out to Eric T. Red, who is a Sabby member. Hello again, Lefty friends. Greetings, Patrick says, do I love the Sabby Sabs podcast? I doobie doobie do. That's cute. I like that. Oh, man. Cam, what's going on? Says, hey, everyone. Cam, I take it you are a SpongeBob fan. I used to love SpongeBob. Love it. Greetings. Aspen Fallen says, oof, lots of dim cringe today, I see. It's everywhere. Greetings. Valerie says, howdy, everyone. Creative Experiment says, I gotta go to Yahoo Finance to learn about the 1-9 response. Capitalism sucks. Yes, indeed, it does. It does. What's going on? Workers Control of Production says, Scooby Dooby Doo. Greetings. Gamer for Life says, same here. Pat Brannigan. What is going on? Brandy Weaver says, hello. Shout out to Brandy. Atrice is here and says, Nancy Pelosi's Chola eyebrows. Oh boy. Oh boy. What's going on? Detroit C says, present virtual hug. That's what that gift does. It does the virtual hug. I'm being silly now. I'm sorry. What's going on? Jenna Colby says, Sabby Sabs. Jenna. Shout out to, whoops, I almost clicked on the wrong one here. Shout out to Henry Covert says, yo, Sabby Sabs. Yo, Henry, what's up? She's Black says, Bernie is a coward. Oh, man. You guys are coming out with the hits tonight already. Greetings to Alex M on Rockfin says, hi, comrades. Oh, man. Let's go ahead and get into it tonight. Oh, I think I missed E. Heller. What's going on? E. Heller says Sabby needs a James Brown or Elvis cape. I don't know about that. Greetings, T. Torstrick says, you had me at Doobie, and there's a picture with a cat on your head. Greetings, what is up? All right, guys, welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you are new, I want to let you know that Sabby Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network, known as RBN. You can catch me there on Thursdays for the Roundtable and Friday for the Sabby Show. You can catch me here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Guys, I have some pretty cool stuff coming up this week. Tomorrow, there will be an associate professor here talking about MMT. Don't miss that. He's going to talk about inflation as well. And then on Friday, we have Karim Rutesh is going to be here along with Peter Beatty. Both of them may sound familiar to you if you watch RBN because they're part of the International Leftist Coalition. And we're going to talk about, is the grass greener on the other side? They both live in Hong Kong. We're going to talk about the differences between living abroad and living in the United States, the pros and the cons. So don't miss that discussion. 6 p.m. Friday, the same night, I will be on RBN and we're doing a solutions panel. Franco will be there. Eric, my producer, will be there. And so will Socialist MMA, who you guys know as Nick Cruz. So that should be a great discussion. So I am not related to Sergio Salvati. Someone else has asked me that before too. I'm sorry. All right, guys, what are we talking about tonight? Let me go ahead and share my screen, show you the thumbnail we got going on here. All right, lots to talk about. Tonight, we're going to discuss Bernie Sanders warns Democrats. What is he warning them about? You can see he has the Democrat symbol in his hand there. I hope he's not trying to throw it, but who knows? We will also talk about Joe Biden eyes voting rights. Guys, I have a lot to say about that. I have a couple of clips to show you. That is huge right now, so don't miss that. And last but not least, we're going to talk about Symone Sanders joins MSNBC. The cringe fest continues. So really quick though, I do want to give a shout out to everyone who's a Sabs patron. Let me go ahead and share my screen for that. Shout out to all of you guys. These are all the patrons for Sabs podcast. You can be a member, a Sabby, a Sabster, or you can be ultimate. Thank you so much for that. Their names are also scrolling across the bottom of the screen. So shout out to all of you guys. I really appreciate it. Could not do this without you because, as you know, the equipment I use, the streaming service I use, all of these things cost. So thank you so much. Want to give a quick shout out to Ashura. Thanks for the super chat. Bernie not be a racist by nature, but he sure does sign on by association on the racism, warmongering, fascism, and austerity of Dems. Ouch. Ashura. Ouch. Coming out with the punch. Man, that was brutal. Let's go ahead and get started. So I actually want to go ahead and start with Bernie Sanders. So here we go. I have a video I want to play for you. Let me go ahead and get this queued up. So Bernie Sanders is giving a warning to Democrats about 2022 and 2024. Now, this is no different from what we've been saying here and at RBN as well. Let me share my screen. I want you to hear what Bernie is going to say on CNN. And I want you to pay close attention here. All right, let me mute my mic really quickly.
If Democrats don't pass these sweeping changes you're talking about, do you think that they will lose control of the House and Senate in 2022?
That's what history tells us. What history tells us is that when Clinton won in 92, 2 years later, the Democrats didn't do as much as they should have. They got swept out by the Republicans. Obama won in 2008, 2010. Republicans decimated them at the polling booths. Look, Donna, this is not complicated stuff. We're in an unprecedented moment in American history. Tens of millions of people are hurting. People are watching this program, do not have food in their cupboards to feed their kids. They are sick. They cannot afford to go to the doctor. They cannot afford the outrageously high cost of prescription drugs. They're worried about climate change and what that will mean for their kids and future generations. That is where we are right now. And the American people say, we elected you guys. Do something. Improve our lives. We are in pain. We are hurting. That's in red states, Republican states. It is in Democratic states. It is in rural America. It is in urban America. It is Black, white, Latino, Native American, Asian American. This is a country that is in pain right now. And if Democrats, who have slim majorities in the House and the Senate, we got President Biden in the White House, if we do not respond now, yes, I believe 2 years from now, the Republicans will say, hey, you elected these guys. They did nothing. vote for us, and they will win.
Okay, here we go. Yes, I do feel that Bernie is correct. We've been saying this for a long time, or I've been saying this for a long time as well, that the Democrats have not really delivered any type of real support to the American people during a pandemic, during a time when people really need it. And it's unfortunate, though, because I'm glad that Bernie Sanders is saying this, but at the same time, it's a little too late. This is the type of message we should have heard a year ago. It's now 2022. Did you guys know that in November, over 4 million Americans quit their jobs? Over 4 million. Some didn't have jobs lined up. This is a problem. We have people who are still unemployed. We have people who were kicked off unemployment in September on Labor Day, go figure, by the Biden administration. They approved this. We still have people that cannot make a living wage in this country. And so even though the Biden administration, even though Congress, even though the Senate, even though they passed the American Rescue Act, even though they sent out stimulus checks, the stimulus checks were not the amount that we were promised by Joe Biden. We were promised $2,000. He shortchanged us. He went to Georgia and he made that speech. If you put Warnock and Ossoff in office, I guarantee you will get those $2,000 stimulus checks. Didn't give it to people. Then came back and said, well, you already received $600 from Trump. So that was part of the 2,000. But that wasn't what he said when he spoke to people in Georgia. He left that part out. So you have that. Yes, they gave a child tax credit. That's great for people who have kids. What about those of us that don't? They haven't done anything for those of us who are still struggling with student loan debt, myself included. They haven't done anything for us. And they said that they would. So you have to think about millennials in this country. You got to think about Gen Z in this country. And by the way, young voters heavily came out for Joe Biden. I don't see that happening next time around, especially if nothing changes or improves for us. So it's great that Bernie Sanders is saying this. And yes, he is correct, but it's a little too late. I feel like the only reason some people are coming out to say this now is because Joe Biden's poll numbers are so low. It is abysmal, and they continue to go down. Kamala Harris's numbers continue to go down. Why do you think they're on their way, or actually they've already been there now, to Georgia to try to fix this voting rights situation? Because they know that they are failing. They are failing the American people. Now, for the people who came to me and said, you need to give Joe Biden time. He's only been president for a year. Dude's been a politician for over 40 years. Are you kidding me? Let's think about some of the things that he's done while he's been a politician. Co-wrote the crime bill with racist Strom Thurmond. That's not a plus in my book. Why would I be okay with that? I know people that were personally affected by Joe Biden's crime bills. And I can tell you it's a little bit different when you actually see people affected by it and not just reading some numbers in an article. So those people may never get their lives back on track. We have a president who still won't decriminalize marijuana. How old school can you be? The state that I live in has made it legal, and we have shops here. But even in my state, in Massachusetts, they still don't want to release people who are in prison because of marijuana. Do you guys see the problems that we have? Do you see why people are so angry and frustrated and fed up? People are tired of working these labor-intensive jobs where they're making $7.25 an hour. I know because I was one of them. I waited tables when I was in college. I waited tables a little bit after college because I graduated during a time when this economy was also in the toilet like it is now. And I couldn't find a job with a college degree. Those jobs are difficult. Those jobs are draining, and you make very little for it. So I don't blame restaurant workers. I don't blame retail workers for walking off those jobs. People have had enough. They're tired. They're broke. They're angry. People don't have enough money to sit down and say, okay, I have two decisions here. I can pay my electricity bill or I can eat. That's the reality for a lot of people in this country. And I've been in that spot, so I know what it feels like. We still don't have health care for everybody in this country. Joe Biden still doesn't want to give everybody universal health care. It's something that he can do by executive order. He can cancel student loan debt by executive order. So yes, Bernie Sanders is right. If they don't fix these issues, they will lose this year and they will lose come 2024. It's a fact of the matter here. But again, Bernie, you're late. All this time, you've been telling us that we could push Biden left. Those of us who realize who Joe Biden really is, and Bernie should too, because he said Joe's his good friend, knew that this was not a possibility. I knew Joe Biden wasn't going to go left. Joe Biden is barely a Democrat. Barely. Joe Biden is more like a Republican that just has a D in the front of his name. Look at his policies. Look what he's done. What do you say to all these young people that are out there today that can't buy a home? I want to show you something that Nico said. I think everybody needs to see this, whether you are a millennial, a Gen Z, or not. Nico tweeted something. Let me grab that tweet. Oh, wow. I have a lot of tweets in this email. How many tweets do I email to myself? This is ridiculous. Nico. Oh my God, how many tweets are in this email from Nico? Oh, that was a bad idea. I have a lot of Nico updates in here. 1 second, guys. I'm sorry. I might just go to Nico's page. Oh, found it. Okay, here we go. Nico tweeted something that I want everybody to see. Let me share my screen. This is the reality for a lot of people living in this country today. Boom. The average price of a home is $85,000 in 15 years. Now, the average price of a home is $375,000. Home prices have increased by almost 1,000% in my mother's lifetime. She's only 52. Let me scroll down and show you. See the years? 1975, $38,000. 1980, $63,000. 1985, $82,000. 1990, $123,000. And I just, rounded there to make it easier. He went on to say, I make a decent living now thanks to my awesome support base. If I bought a 3-bedroom home on a VA loan with a fraction of the interest rate most of you would pay, usually only 1% to 2% for VA. That's true. My dad was military, so I know that. Between mortgage, property taxes, and home stuff, I'd be immediately in struggle mode. He went on to say this. So what I'm saying is, this is not normal at all. You shouldn't have to pick between having a home for your family and living your life to the fullest. And up until recently in the US, that wasn't the case for the middle class. But there isn't a middle class anymore, really. Shout out to Nico. Very true. This is what we're dealing with in this country, what a lot of us are dealing with. There are some people who have retired and had to go back to work because of the cost of living in this country. Because when you retire, you're on a fixed income. So if prices go up, you might have to go back to work. Huge shout out to Henry Covert for the super chat. Thank you so much. I'd give you more. I didn't get that $600 from lying by. I'd give you more, but I didn't get that $600 from lying buying. Sorry. Thank you so much, Henry, for the $50 super chat. That is obviously generous of you. Thank you so much. Oh man, that's funny. That's funny. Pat said, and the crime bill hurt people who just made mistakes. It is a felony to budge a turnstile at the L in Chicago. Wow. Wow. It's true. Hurt people that made mistakes. Henry said Bernie's afraid to go on independent media and YouTube and say this stuff. Yeah, that's kind of stopped, huh? Because when they were running for election, you saw them all over independent media. If it wasn't for independent media, I wouldn't have known as much about Bernie as I know, just to be honest with you, because mainstream media just smeared him every chance they got. Gene said, instead of focusing on how disappointed we are about Bernie, let's band together and do something to force what we want. I agree, Gene. I agree. Gary said, Biden, with my crime bill, you can almost get hung for jaywalking. Basically. And by the way, it wasn't just one crime bill. There were multiple crime bills that he was a part of. Aaron Fights for the People says Bernie is a politician. He reminds me of this every time he says all those nice things about Biden. I agree. Properly Smug says, who can afford a family now? Exactly, who? It costs a lot to have a baby. You get a bill when you leave the hospital. We're having a baby. Then you have to raise your child. It's expensive. It's really sad. It's sad when you think about it. But Marianne Williamson said something also recently. Now, she went on Fox News. I want to play this video for you here. Because again, this is what we've been saying time and time again. But Marianne Williamson chimes in too when she talks about the problems that we have right now with Democrats and with the Biden administration. So listen to this really quick. Make this bigger.
So, Marianne, are you considering primarying President Joe Biden?
No, like many, many people, I'm thinking very deeply about what's going on in this country. And I realize that the horse race is not the conversation that most matters. To listen to Fox, to listen to CNN, to listen to MSNBC, it's all about left versus right, isn't it? But I don't think that that's the real political divide that most matters in this country. I think that's kind of a cartoonish version of the political divide in this country that makes billions of dollars for political forces and media forces. The real political divide in this country, Jesse, is between the powerful and the powerless. And the powerful few are headquartered in both major political parties. It is the corporate-backed forces, whether it's big pharmaceutical companies, big oil companies, military defense contractors, et cetera, that are obstructing the financial well-being and the greater economic and professional and just personal opportunities of the American people. That's what concerns me.
I would agree with that there's definitely
a
big guy versus little guy scenario, and that's always been the case, and that's something this country has to address. In your opinion, as a progressive Democrat, if you still label yourself like that, where do you think President Joe Biden's biggest failures have been so far in year one?
Not pushing back. The biggest failures of Joe Biden, to me, are the same as the biggest failures of Donald Trump and Barack Obama and every president in modern history, which is a refusal to take on in any fundamental way the dominance of these corporate forces. I mean, if you look at the actual economic opportunities of the average American, have they really been that different no matter who?
What can I say? She's right. This is what we've been saying. This is what I've been saying all along. You have to focus on the money. It's not so much about left versus right anymore. It really isn't. Bernie Sanders was the one who woke me up to that. He was the one that told us that we are the 99% and we have to pay attention to the 1% because they're going to look out for themselves. They're not going to look out for us. We have an enormous amount of money that is concentrated at the top. And that also means you have an enormous amount of power that is concentrated at the top. Now, I showed a picture on here a while back when Marcus came on and we were talking about the money. And on that chart, I showed you how even the president of the United States is not at the top. You have bankers, you have Goldman Sachs, you have Jeff Bezos, you have, Bill Gates. Those people are still above the president of the United States. So in that sense, the president is really a puppet. They're just pulling the strings. Just pulling the strings. It reminds me of that CD cover. I'm dating myself here, but it reminds me of that CD cover of NSYNC's album No Strings Attached, where they were all just dangling like puppets. That's what it is. That's what it is. And so no, the fact that some people thought that Joe Biden was going to move further left or that he was going to push back on the corporations, it's laughable to me. Now, I know he says he grew up working class, but he hasn't been working class in a long time. He has been wealthy for decades. And I think we have to remember that, and we need to keep that in mind. He may have grown up working class. He hasn't been working class in decades, you guys. He doesn't know what it's like to be working class today. You ever talk to people who have to work 2 jobs, who have to work 3 jobs? When I lived in New York, I didn't know anyone who didn't have a second job. Not one person. That includes people that have professional jobs. What does that tell you about this country? What does it tell you? Valerie said, Sabby, Sabs, and RBN are right. We need to build that Bernie movement back up during non-election years and try to add all working people, no matter political leanings. We really need non-voters to join us. Yes, we do. Because you know what, Valerie? I talk to people who don't vote, who just are like, forget this, man. It doesn't really do anything. It doesn't improve my life. I talk to those people and they're not happy, just like we're not happy. They're just as frustrated as we are, and they're tired of it. But they realized, I guess a long time ago before I did, that voting for these politicians wasn't really going to change anything. They were hip to that. But they still want change, just like we do. So what can we do? What can we do to make things better? I'll tell you one thing. I've been telling people for a while that I think that if you are going to vote, I think you need to vote for independents. I think you need to run for people who are running third party. Now, that may not sound great to those of you who are attached to a political party and you've been that way your whole life. But I want you to ask yourself, if you are that person, ask yourself why. Especially if you're working class, especially if you're struggling financially in this country. Ask yourself, why do you continue to go out every election and to vote for the same parties, the same people, sometimes different people, and your life has not improved and your life hasn't changed? Why do you feel you have to do that? Is it because CNN, Fox News told you to? Let's think about the people on CNN and Fox News. Again, going back to the class issue, those people are wealthy. Don Lemon is wealthy. Tucker Carlson is wealthy. They don't need the things that we need, that we were fighting for. Their job is to keep you in the 2-party system. They're not going to tell you, yes, you should vote for independents. Yeah, we need you to get out there and vote for third parties. In fact, they rarely talk about it. And when they do, they're smearing them. Look at the way that they smeared Jill Stein. They tried to pretend like there was only one female in the race. Lo and behold, there was Jill Stein. Once Jill Stein got to the percentage that she needed to get the government funding, you only need to get to 5%. Once she reached that, all of a sudden they said, oh, she's this Russian asset. Everybody's associated with Russia. This is what they do. This time around, come 2022, come 2024, don't be surprised if they try to say they're associated with China. Somebody record this. I'm going to go back to the stream. If that happens, I'm going to go back to the stream and say, remember when I told you they might do this? This is what they do. This is what they do. Cryptician said, stop throwing away your votes to Democrats. God damn it. Cryptician is angry too. And speaking of voting. Oh, thanks so much, Eric. Roger Meadows, thanks so much for the tip on Rockfin. I think anyone with the name Joe change their name to match Bush's vice president because we keep getting screwed by a bunch of Joes. Joe Lieberman, Joe Manchin, and Joe Biden. Oh my God. I didn't think about that, Roger, but that's a good point. Oh, wow. Oh man. Oh, man. She's Black said, I don't want to be a part of any movement that is structured by a lawmaker, politician, or political party. That's another problem that I've brought up as well. It was, great that Bernie created this mass movement throughout this country, right? But the problem is, and CJ says this best, is that Bernie Sanders was a politician and he was running a campaign. When he suspended that campaign, no one stopped to think, well, wait a minute, if Bernie doesn't make it, who's going to take over this movement? Who's going to continue to do this? Bernie Sanders, by the way, can still continue to do this. He can still help lead this movement. But that's not happening. He's gone along with the Democrats. See how easy it is to just check out when you can? See how easy it is to just check out when you don't need these things that you told all of us to fight for? Austin Jones said working class leadership is plenty enough. I agree. If you look back on a lot of the movements that have happened in this country that were successful, the civil rights movement, the women's movement, those weren't politicians leading those movements. The civil rights movement was not popular. A lot of people may not realize that the civil rights movement was not popular at the time. So MLK and all those civil rights activists, they were facing a lot. They were not in the majority, they were in the minority. And they were fighting against not just the government laws, the laws that were in the states, the Jim Crow laws, but they were also fighting against the establishment because not Malcolm X, but him too, but Martin Luther King was anti-capitalist. But a lot of people don't tell you that part. Robin said Bernie led the revolution down a cul-de-sac. Oh, Robin. Shout out to Robin Durling, who does phenomenal work over at RBN. It's true. It was like we hit a brick wall. Workers control the production, say the twin capitalist parties belong to the employer class. They'll never represent our interests. We can only trust a party of by and for labor to advance revolution. This is our task. And I agree. We need labor to really unite in this country, the same way we saw the different strikes that happened last year, and I'm sure there'll be more. We need all of the working people in this country to unite and fight back. Who is going to lead that? I don't know. I don't think it should be a politician. I'm just saying. But we need someone to lead that movement. And it needs to be someone who is not going to back down when times get tough. It's going to be someone who is of the working class, someone who cannot just walk away and say, okay, I don't want to fight anymore. This is too tough. We need that kind of movement to happen in this country. That's something all of us can unite over as labor. Just keeping it real. Now I'm going into the second story, and this is a hot topic today. I've seen it all over the news since this morning. And that's voting rights. Now this is coming up. So Joe Biden has made his way to Georgia to fight for voting rights for people in Georgia. But there's a plan to this. I'm going to tell you that in a second. I want to share this article. We have no option. Biden calls for changing Senate rules to pass voting rights laws. Here we go. President Biden endorsed changing Senate rules to pass new voting rights legislation during a speech in Atlanta on Tuesday, warning of a grave threat to American democracy if lawmakers do not act to protect the heart and soul of the country. Mr. Biden did not go so far as to call for a full-scale elimination of the filibuster. Hold on to that. See that? Again, he's only going to go but so far. A Senate tradition that allows the minority party to block legislation that fails to garner 60 votes, but said he supported getting rid of it in the case of voting rights legislation. But again, that's something that would benefit him. Let me continue. Such a change in Senate procedures has only the slimmest of chances of winning the support of all 50 Senate Democrats, which is needed to overcome universal Republican opposition. Mr. Biden, a former senator and institutionalist who had long been leery of whittling away at the filibuster, said such Senate traditions have been abused. Sadly, the United States Senate, designed to be the world's greatest deliberative body, has been rendered a shell of its former self. During and at times emotional speech delivered at a consortium of 4 historically Black colleges and universities. Listen to this, guys. At Black colleges and universities. Now, why would he give the speeches there? Mr. Biden laid out the principles he wanted to be associated with, providing access to the ballot, fostering racial equality, and keeping the promise of America alive, and made it clear that win or lose, he wanted to be on the right side of history. Let me come out. It's interesting that he went to those HBCUs because one of his campaign promises was to make sure that students that went to HBCUs didn't have to pay their student loan debt. That was one of the promises that Biden made. Now he shows up to go speak there, basically to say, I need you to come out and vote for me again. That's what this is about. Why do you guys think he went to Georgia? Why do you guys think he went to HBCUs? Because he knows with his polling numbers, he is in danger of losing Georgia in 2024. I believe the only reason he won Georgia in 2020 was because he was going against Trump and people were just tired of Trump. They were like, look, I'm tired of this dude. Dude has got to go. But people in Georgia are speaking out. People in Georgia are speaking out. And I'm going to show you a video about that in just a second. Cam said, exactly. I knew I wasn't crazy. Right. Right. This isn't so much about voting rights per se, as he's trying to do a good thing. He's trying to do the right thing. He's trying to do what he can do so that people can come out and vote for him again. That's what this is about. Let me go down there to Georgia. Let me sip some of that peach tea, peach juice on Peach Street. Talk to all the Black kids at the HBCUs. Convince them that I'm on their side, even though I lied to them. Even though I didn't fulfill my campaign promises. Tell them that they need to come out and vote for me again, or else they'll end up with a Republican like Trump. That's what this is really about for Joe Biden. Now, do we have a problem with voting laws in this country? Absolutely. They vary state by state. When I lived in South Carolina, we had to show our photo ID. Living in Massachusetts, we don't have to do that. Here, when I go to vote, they ask me for my name. They ask me for my address. They find it on the paper. They check it off. Not once have they ever asked me to see my photo ID. In South Carolina, they asked me to see my photo ID. So yes, there are issues that we have with voting in this country. I have a friend that lives in Atlanta. During 2020, she was telling me the line that she was in, the wait was 10 hours. And then you have to deal with the fact that some employers just don't let you get time off on election day. I said this before, that election day should be a holiday. That way you don't have to worry about that. They won't do that though. They'll give us Juneteenth instead. That's how much they care. They don't really want us to come out. They don't really want Black people to come out and vote. They just give them a holiday. Psh. Let me kneel in kente cloth. Get a couple of Black people to do it with me so it looks like it's real and we really care. That's what they'll do. But people aren't buying it. People aren't buying it. And I want to show you a video. This is from Case Study QB. So shout out to Case Study QB, always like providing like great clips. I told you I don't know where I'd be without Case Study QB for real. And that rhymes. But there's a clip here I want to show you that also warns about what is going to happen if they do not fix this, if they do not pass the voting rights bill, which Joe Manchin has already said. I just want to put this out here, everybody, so we can come back to this again. Just like I told you with the infrastructure bill, with Build Back Better, how Joe Manchin said he didn't agree with it. I just want to let you know right now, again, ahead of time, Joe Manchin right now is not feeling this bill. Okay? So when they come back later on and say that he voted against it, if he ends up doing that, I don't want everybody to be surprised and be like, oh my God, how dare he? We are so disappointed in Joe Manchin. How could he let us down like this? You heard it here first. All right, let me share this clip. Let me go ahead and mute my mic.
The Georgia Secretary of State, meanwhile, he defied former President Trump's request to find enough votes for then President Trump to win the state during the 2020 election. He's come out against measures in the Democrats' proposed voting rights package. Republican Brad Raffensperger says he opposes the legislation just days before President Biden is set to deliver a major speech on voting rights in his state.
The Freedom to Vote Act actually does promote a national standard for states that have an ID requirement for in-person voting. You could use a bank statement, a utility bill. I wonder, why do you think Republicans...
It does not have photo ID, and photo ID is the most secure way of using and making sure that you can identify who the voter is. And I think that's very important. And then they also want same-day registration. And that's just, very difficult for any election official to manage. And I think that undermines trust in elections. And right now, we need to restore trust wherever we can.
With the anniversary of January 6th just days ago and Martin Luther King Day on the horizon, Senate Democrats are pushing a pair of voting rights bills. The Freedom to Vote Act would expand voting by mail, allow same-day voter registration, and prevent gerrymandering, among a host of other reforms.
Okay, I just wanted to pause it here because they don't go through all of these. So I just want to point these out to you here. So Freedom to Vote Act allows same-day and automatic voter registration, expands voting by mail, establishes standard 15-day early voting period, restores voting rights to the previously incarcerated, prevents partisan gerrymandering, protects against voter intimidation. Then there's the John Lewis Voting Act, and I want you to hear this one. Restores federal government oversight of state election laws, prevents discrimination against minority voters, creates pathway to challenge new voter laws in the courts, requires public notice for changes made to voting laws. Just wanted to read those to you because they don't stay here long. So let me get back to the video.
The John Lewis Voting Rights Act, meanwhile, includes measures such as restoring federal oversight of state election laws and preventing discrimination against minority voters. President Biden and Vice President Harris will head to Georgia tomorrow to make their case for these bills. Republican-led state legislatures in a slew of states, including Georgia, have passed more restrictive voting laws in response to the 2020 election, fueled by Donald Trump's big lie.
Okay, so you saw it there. They realized that this is a hot issue, that this is really going to determine if some of the same voters come out again in Georgia, in places like Georgia. That's the hot state for them right now. If they come out again in 2024, remember, there were a lot of first-time voters that voted in 2020, including Georgia, right? So they're trying to make sure that those people are still going to come back out again. Joe Biden's poll numbers are really low. They're abysmal. And then also the long voting lines. And that does happen in some places. In South Carolina, I had to wait a couple hours. In Massachusetts, I usually don't have to wait long. I don't know why. I don't know what we do differently here per se, but usually I can just walk right in, do what I need to do, and walk out. I've never had to wait long. Even for 2020, I think the maximum time we waited in line was maybe like 30 minutes. So you need more polling stations. You really do. You need more, voting stations. You need to have that. That's important, I think, as well. Thank you so much for the super chat, The Red Precarian. I was born 1 year before the Civil Rights Act was passed. So there's an example of things in my lifetime about 100 years after the Civil War ended. Thank you so much for the super chat, The Red Precarian. What's going on? Indie Left News, doobie doobie doo. Shout out to Indie Left, you guys. Always a pleasure. Jean said, Sabby's question, is there a way to do this without a specific public leader? Sorry, no way to send a super chat. No worries. In reference to a movement, you could, but I think what part of the problem might be, if you're trying to do this nationally, I think you would need a leader, but you could do it state by state. That's another thing that we could do, right? Isn't that what we did to get marijuana passed in Massachusetts? So we could do this state by state and have people gather together in Massachusetts, have people gather in Texas, Colorado, all the states across the country, and then somehow combine together as one. But I think part of the problem is different states need different things, right? So I can tell you about the needs that we have here in Massachusetts. We have a great wealth inequality here. Kyle, thanks so much for the super chat. Vote for the platform, not the leader. Don't follow leaders. Watch your parking meters. Thanks so much for that. That's cute. And shout out to Linda Chap for the super chat as well. Voting by mail equals fraud, Sabby. That's how Joe won. Thanks so much for the super chat. Yeah, I have to be careful what I say on here because YouTube. But I understand the concerns with that as well. I think that if we did this state by state, I think we have a better shot. If we're going to do something like this nationally, I think we do need some type of a leader because otherwise you'll have too many people, too many hands in the cookie jar and too many people saying like, well, follow my way and people saying, no, let's go this way. I think you need someone or maybe a committee. A committee would be good. A committee of people that can come together and say, all right, this is what we need to do. These are the plans we're going to do. These are the steps that we need to take to get this to happen. I think either one of those could work out well. She's Black said Dems have declared war on third parties. The voting bill is only the beginning. Thanks so much for that. She's Black. Yeah, I do want to say that this whole voting rights bill is not really to help voting generally across the board. It's to help Democrats. I just want to be clear here. It's to help people vote for Democrats. If they're trying to make it fair across the board, then we would have third party candidates and independent candidates on the ballot in every state. And we don't. And there's a reason for that. So just that's something I was going to say that to later, but that is something that I do want to say is this is not to help everybody, all type of voting across the board. It is specifically designed to help voting for Democrats, to get you to go out there and vote for Democrats. And in this instance, to vote for Joe Biden. I just want to be clear about that. Thanks so much, Roger Meadows, for the tips on Rockfin. California Governor Newsom bragged on Twitter today about his state might be the first to offer Medicare for all statewide. It's interesting because he was against that. I guess that recall election really scared the living daylights out of him. That should be a lesson to all of us. Thursday, I will be on call with the New York Progressive Action Network, and we will be interviewing the governor and her two main primary challengers. I will have a lot to say. He won Georgia because there were promised checks. Sabs, let's fly to Georgia and shout out from the audience, yo, Joe, where's those checks? Get those checks to us and we'll think about it. Third parties get the Dick Cheney treatment on that voting rights bill. Speak to anyone in third party and they'll tell you tomorrow I'll respond to your Monday show, seeing I was on co-op ride meeting. We'll have a lot to say. Prepare, LOL. Awesome. Thank you so much for those, Roger Meadows. Now, again, Biden was warned about this last year by Al Sharpton. Now, we all know Al Sharpton he's always involved. He always got something to say. So I want to play a clip here with Al Sharpton. This is last year. He made these remarks of him trying to warn the Biden administration about what happens if they don't get this Voting Rights Act passed. Listen to this.
Acting as though this White House has options. They can either make this a priority or their voting base will not make turnout a priority for them next year. It's just that simple. I'm hearing all over the country people saying that Joe Biden said when he won, the night he won, his victory speech, Black America, you had my back, I will have yours. Mm-hmm. Not I will have yours after BBB passes, not after I get some other things I want. I will have your back. There's nothing more fundamental to having our back than voting rights.
I'm sorry, I disagree with that. Yes, people have been saying that that is true, but I don't know why people would have believed that Joe Biden would have our back to begin with. He never did before. Just because he was Barack Obama's vice president, that doesn't mean he's out there to help black people. Joe did what worked for Joe. Let's just be real here. Did Joe Biden have black people's back when he co-wrote the crime bill? Did he? Did he have black people's back when he said he didn't want his kids to grow up in a racial jungle? Remember that? Remember? Not even just black people. Let's talk about seniors. Did he have seniors back when he wanted to cut Social Security? He's tried to do that multiple times. Now, Al Sharpton goes on to say there's nothing more fundamental than the voting rights. I disagree. If you want to talk about what African Americans need in this country, pass reparations. What about that? Cancel the student loan debt. Black women, we hold the largest amount of student loan debt. But he doesn't want to do those things. He doesn't want to do anything that's really going to give us any type of monetary gain. He doesn't want to do anything that's going to help us get ahead financially. He just wants to virtue signal, and he wants us to come out and vote. So please, I'm sorry, but they're acting like this is the number one thing that black people need. This is not the number one thing that we need. Yes, all of this should be fair across the board. Yes, we shouldn't have these rules in one place and in another place is different. We shouldn't have gerrymandering. Yes, those things are wrong. But at the end of the day, what has voting done for us? Where has voting for Democrats gotten us? Look around. Seriously, look around. I have family from Baltimore. I could go back there this weekend. And I already know it looks exactly the same as it did 20 years ago. They haven't fixed the schools. They haven't fixed the neighborhoods. Crime is still rampant because they haven't addressed the poverty situation. So I'm sorry, but this is not the number one thing that we need. How many times do we have to continue to bring up reparations, which is a debt that is owed? Now, you want us to pay back our student loans. You tell us that it's a debt that's owed. Well, so is reparations. And you never paid that to black people either. You see the hypocrisy? Let me go back into that clip. I got a couple super chats I want to shout out really quick. Thanks so much for the super chat, The Red Precarian. I hear from my friends in the UK that the US corporations are starting to warm their way into buying up pieces of their national healthcare system. I don't know, Red Precarian. Thanks for the super chat as well. Meanwhile, in Africa, France is still messing with several African nations' monetary system via the Central African franc per Ndongo Samba on Twitter. Thank you so much for that. 100%. 100%. I'm sorry, but this is what Joe Biden needs. This is what helps him. This is what helps Democrats. When are they going to help us? Never. Not once. They don't want to. They don't care about us. They could easily sign a $768 billion bill to help the military-industrial complex, to fund the Pentagon. But we asked them to do one simple thing. We asked them to cancel student loan debt. No, I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. No, not going to do it. And you still want us to come out and vote for you? You still want us to stand in line, to stand in the cold, to stand in the heat, without food, without water, for hours, to check your name off on a box, and you've given us nothing. Why do we continue to do it? Why do we continue to do it? Let me go back into that video clip. Let's go back to Al. He was a little hyped up. Here we go. Sharing my screen.
To having our back than voting rights.
And on that,
you cannot put that on I'm going to wait till the Senate acts.
And on that front, Rev, you said he needs to make it a priority. Let's be very clear here. He has to make it the priority. Everything needs to move to the side. He needs to call everybody in. This has to be the priority. All of this needs to pass. I don't give a damn whether it's 50 votes or 60 votes.
That's right.
It needs to pass on Martin Luther King Day, Junior King Day in 2022.
That's right.
More virtue signaling. It needs to pass on Martin Luther King Day. Did you guys just hear that? You see what they're doing? DC? MLK Day is in how many days? Let me check my calendar. Computer love. Okay, not counting today. 6 days. It's in 6 days. All right, we'll see if that happens. But you see the virtue signaling? Listen to them. It needs to be a priority, but nothing else does. Are you kidding me? A living wage needs to be a priority. People are tired of being broke. People are tired of working multiple jobs. Canceling student loan debt needs to be a priority. Reparations needs to be a priority. Universal health care needs to be a priority. But no, they say that this bill needs to be a priority. All three of them on this show are wealthy. Keep that in mind when you hear these talking points. I'm going back in.
Needs to pass by that time, and they have time to do that. It has to be the priority because Joe Biden would not have gotten out of South Carolina without black voters.
Right.
Joe Biden would not have won Georgia or any of these states without black voters.
Yeah,
This is
and you are
the
absolutely
priority, and not for black voters, for all voters. And I'll be damned, Republicans are going to wake up one day 6 years from now, and they're going to turn around, and they are going to be glad that these safeguards to democracy were going to pass, because mark my words, they're going to be in the minority, and they're going to be glad that these bills are passed.
Martin Luther King III said there next year can be no celebration of his father's holiday without this legislation.
Yeah.
And Joe Biden can pick up the phone and call, and I think you're right about Senator Manchin. They're beating up on him on something he's already said. Said, okay, Senator Manchin, we get it. You're not dealing with BBB the next year. We need you now on voting. Give Manchin the chance to stand up and say, well, let's do it this way or that way. But let's quit playing games that we can't move until after BBB. We can move if we decide to move, and we must move.
You know, it's always interesting when they bring up MLK the Third and try to compare him to MLK, because MLK the Third is a capitalist. MLK was not. I hate when they do that. I hate when they do that. Let's use the kids. All right, guys, we'll see if that passes in 6 days. What was really interesting, though, is that The View also has concerns about this. And you know how I feel about The View. I told you they are like so politically, their views and their opinions are one-sided. I told you how they were towards Bernie when he came on there, how they were towards Marianne Williamson, to Tulsi Gabbard, to anybody who had a plan that was going to help the people. Anything outside of the status quo. Now, Chuck Schumer was on there. Whoopi and Sonny are there. Listen to what they say.
Things to happen unless we stop them.
Well, Senator, we just spoke during Hot Topics about President Biden's speech later today in Atlanta. Stacey Abrams, one of the most prominent advocates for voting rights and current Democratic favorite in Georgia's governor race, is not going to attend today's event. She's citing a scheduling conflict. And there are also a number of voting rights groups in the state that are not going to be attending that speech, saying that President Biden has taken a long time, perhaps too long, and not prioritized that issue. So what do you say to your fellow colleagues like Mark Kelly and Manchin and Sinema, who are being, in my view, pretty obstreperous on this issue, and those Democrats that are saying this push is really late and a little too little?
Well, look, I'm glad I'm glad Joe Biden is going down there to Atlanta today. He's going to give excuse me, he's going to give a very, very strong speech. And I say to all of my colleagues, and my Democratic colleagues in particular, this is not just another political issue. This is about the future of how America functions. And if we allow the voting rights to be rolled back, sort of like they were in Jim Crow, our democracy could really wither away. If people don't have faith that that elections are fair, then our democracy, the root of our democracy is free and fair elections, and we all abide by the results until Donald Trump. And now we have to fight back. So I'm saying, even if the Republicans don't join us, we have to do it ourselves. And that will involve, as you mentioned, as Whoopi mentioned, changing some of the rules. But we've changed the rules in the past. Even Robert Byrd, who was Joe Manchin's mentor, one of the great traditionalists in the Senate, changed the rules 9 times. He said, Byrd, when circumstances change, the rules have to change. The circumstances have changed because we have these horrible laws being passed, and we're having the Republicans, every single one in the Senate, not joining us. I asked 4 times.
There they go again. They're doing the same thing that I told you that Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz were doing last night. It's the Republicans' fault. Let's blame them. Let's blame the other side. This is why I don't like the 2-party system.
To have a vote, bipartisan vote, to just debate this bill, and not a single Republican would vote to debate it, so we couldn't debate it.
Now, Senator, Republicans have already blocked multiple attempts at passing these bills over the last year, but there has been some bipartisan support for a more modest reform of the Electoral Count Act, which is what President Trump's allies wanted to use to invalidate the 2020 election. You've called that, quote, unacceptable, insufficient, and even offensive, unquote. Why not try to compromise on that and lodge some sort of win here?
Well, we have to. I don't mind. I'm listening to any ideas. The trouble with the Electoral College Act, of course, is all these laws are aimed in 2022 at the House and Senate. The Electoral College Act, as you know, only affects the president, and it's in 2024. There's not the urgency. But second, to do something on the Electoral College is fine, but it's no substitute for preventing people from voting, for making it so much harder for people to vote. You know, one of the laws in Georgia, what it says? It says, if, often in minority areas, you have to wait for hours online, 4, 5, 6 hours. And in white suburban areas, you don't have to wait hardly at all. They now say it's a crime if someone wants to give you water or a sandwich as you're waiting online to vote. The Electoral College Act doesn't undo any of that. So is it something that we might consider? Yes, but not as a substitute for these vital, vital provisions, which will keep the right to vote and prevent voter suppression.
So here's the thing. The long lines, which I mentioned to you earlier, they talk about this as though this is something that was new with 2020. It was not. That's been an issue for a long time. They didn't seem to care about it before. They only care about it now because they know that Joe Biden has these really bad polling numbers. Again, this is all about getting you to come out and vote for Democrats. Not anybody else, not independents, not third parties, all about Democrats. That's what they want you to do. It's terrible. But as I mentioned earlier, not everyone is falling for it. Now, there's a group called Black Votes Matter. And I believe this is one of the founders of the group. So I want to play this clip. Now, she was on, this is Black News Network. Black News Corporation, Black News Network. I've seen them before. But she is a part of the group called Black Votes Matter. She not falling for it. She not falling for it. Let me play this video.
Right now, all we are hearing are words, just pretty statements, empty promises, hollow words. We need action right now. And so, yes, that is a beginning. At this point in time, you know, like Chris said, we know that state legislatures, Georgia in particular, and several others are already working to make it harder to vote. But we must have these protections now. We are tired of empty promises. We are tired of statements. We don't want to visit. It's still a pandemic. Omicron is raging. We don't need to be outside. We need to be at home. We need to where we are safe. But more importantly, we need this protection from the federal government. We must have it, and we must have it now. Right now, all we are hearing are words, just pretty statements.
And so here it says here today, President of the United States and Vice President will travel to Atlanta, Georgia to speak on voting rights. But unless they will be delivering a finalized voting rights plan that will pass both chambers, not to be stopped by the filibuster and to be signed into law, they can keep their words. We want action. Now that is from Black Votes Matter. Check them out on Twitter. Now, see, people are starting to wake up. People are tired of words. People are tired of their slogans. They're tired of their hashtags. People want to see action. If Joe Biden thought he could come into this presidency during the time of a pandemic, especially after Donald Trump, and just skate through these 4 years and not deliver on those promises, and people were not going to challenge him on it, he is sadly mistaken. This is a different time. A different time. You come into the presidency during the time when we were already in a pandemic. A lot of people had lost their jobs. And you think that the American people were going to forget about the promises that you made, especially now when people so desperately need it? How can you show your face in Georgia after you reneged on those $2,000 checks? How can you show your face at HBCUs and talk to all these kids after you reneged on your promise to cancel student loan debt for them, specifically for students that went to HBCUs? How can you do that? The nerve, the shame. He should be ashamed. Low poll numbers. That's why. If his poll numbers was high, he wouldn't even be there. I'm ready for those comments, Eric. Thanks so much for the tip on Rockfin Roger Meadows. Stacey Abrams didn't forget how Joe stood her up on the Lawrence O'Donnell show when she thought he'd pick her as a running mate. I forgot about that. Karma's a B. Thanks so much for the tip on Rockfin Jen. Stacey was paid by Bloomberg, wasn't she? Oh, yes, she was. Yes, she was. And they also said that Stacey Abrams was not going to be present at his speech today in Georgia. So we all have to pay attention. And I wanted to really talk about this. I know I spent a lot of time talking about this, but the reason why I wanted to do so is because right now, all over liberal media, they are talking about this as this is the best thing next to sliced bread. It needs to happen immediately. Joe Biden's doing the right thing. He's trying to get something accomplished, but they're leaving out the fact that this is not going to be helpful towards people running as independents or third parties. And the fact that Joe Biden is only doing this to get you to come out and vote for him, to get you to come out and vote for Democrats. That's what this is about. She's Black says it's always about selling the illusion of progress. 100%. 100%. That's what it's about. He really needs Georgia probably again. I don't think he's going to get Arizona again this time. I could be wrong, but I don't think he's going to get Arizona again this time. If he doesn't get Arizona, Then he's looking at Georgia. I can't speak for Pennsylvania. That could be a toss-up. But I don't think he's going to get Georgia again either. People want their $2,000 checks. You owe them that money. A lot of people were dependent on that money. All of the $2,000. And you shortchanged them. But you didn't shortchange corporations. You didn't shortchange the police. You gave the police more money. You gave the military industrial complex more money than Donald Trump did. You think people don't see this? People are paying attention more now. After Trump, people are paying attention more now. Not as many as I would like, but I think that things are starting to change. I really do. Creative Experiment said Joe will promise $4,000 checks this time. Oh, man. Oh, man. Angry Progressive said, I've lost hope. I think it's time to drag the guillotines to Washington, D.C. Oh, gosh. Oh, what's going on, War Deer Entertainment? Shout out. Shout out. Yeah. Oh. Says HR 1 third parties would be destroyed and John Lewis Voting Rights Act makes it harder for the unhoused to vote with voter ID requirements. There you go. There you go. They specifically said in that video with Al Sharpton, remember, it was African-American voters who came out heavily to support Joe Biden. He needs the black vote. Democrats need the black vote. And I've often asked this question, and I'm going to ask this question again. Why do we continue to vote for Democrats when there's no black agenda? Not one thing. Name one. And don't give me a holiday. I'll wait. No? No, couldn't think of one. Couldn't think of anything. No black agenda. But they still want to come out and beg us to vote for them. Every damn time. They think that, oh, well, we have Kamala as a vice president. That's good enough. Hee hee. Not well liked. Not well liked. I fell for it with Obama, man. I know I bring that up a lot, but I'm still mad at myself when it comes to Obama. I'm mad I didn't see through the smoke screen. Won't fall for it again. Can't. No black agenda. Not one thing. And we're supposed to go stand in line for hours and vote for them? Really? After I watched them give the police more money, after a summer of protest against George Floyd's murder, after I watched cops on TV bust black people in the face, push people on the ground, I watched them push an elderly man on the ground and he hit his head, and you gave them more money, and I'm supposed to come stand in line for hours to vote for you? I hope everybody hears this message. Share this with as many people as possible. And for me, it's not about the views. It's the message that I want to get across. If they're not offering us anything, why go out there and vote for them? John to Emily Transition Vlog says, Obama con me too. A lot of us, man. A lot of us. I won't fall for that again. I won't fall for it. I don't care how charismatic you may be. Not anymore. I'm done. I'm done. Dana said, Obama duped me as well. I cried when he was elected. Hey, same. It was all optics. It was all optics. I am going into my final story. And this one is about Symone Sanders. Now, you may remember her. She was Bernie Sanders' press secretary in 2016. She worked with Joe Biden in 2020. I know it's a crazy flip-flop, but now she is joining MSNBC. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Here we go. Well, I guess I have some news to share this morning. I'm excited to join MSNBC and The Choice. I look forward to working with some of the most talented and amazing people in news. There is a lot to learn, but I'm ready to get to work. And you can see here, MSNBC Public Relations, Presidential Campaign Trail, the White House. Next, Symone Sanders is headed to MSNBC and The Choice to host news programs across cable and streaming. Oh, and look, there's the Peacock. The Peacock. 8,340 people like this. I don't get it. I don't get it. Look at this. You see, guys? Look, all the compliments. Why? Why? No, this is not good news. Great. You were going to a network that lies all the damn time. Congratulations. That's not considered good news to me. I still never understood how you go from working with Bernie, who is running a progressive movement, who wants to give everyone health care in this country, to go and work with Joe Biden, who doesn't want to, already said, told you he's not going to approve of Medicare for all, doesn't want to cancel student loan debt. How do you make that transition? Two opposite ends of the spectrum there. Rockfin comment from Jean, she is terrible, yuck, she fits with them. Why do that? That's such an opportunist thing to do. So that makes me feel like either when you were working with Bernie, you didn't really want those issues that he was fighting for. You didn't really believe in those. Or you did, and you wanted to join Joe Biden because you were being an opportunist, because you knew that he probably most likely had the chance to win. And then you would become his press secretary. But that did not happen. That did not happen. Joe Biden chose Jen Psaki. After Symone Sanders ran across the stage to protect him from an audience member who jumped up to try to hit Joe Biden. Do you guys remember that? She ran across the stage like a bodyguard and was like, "Get over here." That wasn't even her job. That's what security is for. She did all that. The number of times I saw her come on TV and defend Joe Biden's crime bills, the number of times I saw her, let me see if I can find one. Hold on. Hold on. I'm coming. It's just a mess. Let's see. I know there's clips out there. I found it. I found it. Here we go. Oh, they won't show me that one. Hold on. Let me see if I can see this one. Boom. Booyah. Here we go. Watch this. I can't believe I said booyah. That's so like 1993. Hold on. All right. Found it. Here we go. I just want to refresh your memory.
His strategy pretty clear. To win the White House, he will have to win the Rust Belt battleground states.
And that's why in a few hours, he's holding a major rally in Philadelphia. This is the home of his new campaign headquarters, a Democratic stronghold.
Will not do it.
We thank Arlette Sines for that report. Joining us now to talk about this, Symone Sanders, senior advisor to the Joe Biden president campaign. Symone, hello to you.
Hello, Victor. How are you?
Very well, thank you. First, obvious question. You were the 2016 national spokesperson for the Bernie Sanders campaign. Why are you now on Team Biden?
Well, look, I think Vice President Biden is going to show everyone today exactly why I decided to join the campaign. Look, we are in a fight for the soul of this nation. And I believe that this is a pivotal point, just not in American history, but in the world history. We have to make a decision about who it is that we want to be, where it is we're going to go. And I believe that Vice President Biden has the right vision to take us there. So I'm very excited to be on Team Biden. I'm excited to be here in Philadelphia, Victor. Okay, we are kicking off officially our campaign today. And I really think what you're going to hear from the vice president is a bookend on these themes that you've been hearing from us since he first announced that he is running.
All right. I don't have much time with you, and I wanted to get that out of the way because I'm sure the viewers have that obvious question. But let me talk about the vice president here. And we heard from Senator Harris in that piece from Arlette about her refuting a claim that the vice president made this week that the 1994 crime bill that he wrote did not contribute to mass incarceration. I want you to listen to former President Bill Clinton. This is President Clinton, who signed that into law in 2015.
I signed a bill that made the problem worse, and I want to admit it. In that bill, there were longer sentences. And most of these people are in prison under state law, but the federal law set a trend. And that was overdone. We were wrong about that.
President Clinton says that they were wrong about that. Senator Harris has said that it contributed to mass incarceration. Why is it Vice President Biden admitting what we're hearing from the former president?
Well, look, I think what we can go back to Vice President Biden's comments at the National Action Network breakfast in January, where he noted that the crime bill, by way of this disparity between crack and powder cocaine, trapped an entire generation of people. Look, I think many people will tell you across the country, Victor, Black folks included, that the crime bill and the reaction to what was happening in the early 90s. Now, look, I was only about 3 or 4, but I'm a student of history. What was happening in the early 90s, the reaction was an overcorrection to a very real issue. But we are going to see some policy rollouts from our campaign very soon, Victor. I know folks have questions about what is Vice President Biden's criminal justice policy.
Is it now
those are going to come.
Now,
but I mean,
the campaign's position that the crime bill did contribute to mass incarceration?
Victor, I think the vice president, his comments speak for themselves.
Did you guys just hear that? Did you guys just hear that? Now let's remember, he still wouldn't admit that his partake in the crime bills contributed to mass incarceration. He still wouldn't admit it. Symone Sanders is laughing this off. Let's go back in.
What is very clear is
his comment was that it does not contribute to mass incarceration. The former president who signed it said it did.
Look, Victor, if we play the whole clip, what he also said was that the majority of folks that are incarcerated were incarcerated at the state level.
And there's a reason for that. Let me put up the truth in sentencing incentives here.
And I mean, there is a reason for that.
But there's a reason. Let me put it up. Let me put it up on the screen, guys. The truth in sentencing section of the 1994 crime bill. This is page 21. It incentivized. It offered billions of dollars to build new correctional facilities if states would increase the percentage of convicted violent offenders, increase the average prison time, increase the percentage of the sentence was there. Did this bill not incentivize putting more people in jail and keeping them there longer?
Victor, I am not going to sit here and tell you the crime bill was perfect. There were some really great preventative things that it did. It took on the NRA, and then there was an overcorrection. What you're describing was an overcorrection. There was a reach. Some folks went too far. The bill wasn't perfect. Republicans fought to put a lot of things in that bill. Democrats fought to get a lot of things out of the bill.
I'm sorry I had to do that to you, but I just wanted to remind you there how quickly she was to defend Joe Biden. Still defending his statements. Wouldn't admit to it. That's important for people to see. I just wanted to remind you of that. Yes, the crime bills were a problem. Now, if Bill Clinton can sit up there and admit to it and say this was a mistake, why couldn't Joe Biden admit to it? Why? And then it's a disgrace because you have a Black senior advisor And then she's put in the hot seat and she has to try to answer that question for him after he basically said, no, it did not contribute to mass incarceration. That's a lie. That is a lie. Here's another reminder of Symone Sanders. Let's go into this. Now, I just want to remind you how she went to bat for Joe Biden. Here we go. Okay, so in this clip, a protester is about to come and charge at Joe Biden. Watch who jumps across the stage like they are Superman. Watch.
In the neighborhoods we come from, the three.
So right there in the pinstripe jacket, that's Symone Sanders. So she wasn't just a senior advisor. She was also playing bodyguard. And when it came time for him to pick a press secretary, he chose Jen Psaki. But she's going on to MSNBC, and they lie a lot, so she'll fit right in. I will say one thing, though. I like to think about a silver lining. The fact that Symone Sanders decided not to continue on with Bernie Sanders in 2020, the positive side of that is that introduced a lot of us to Brianna Joy Gray. Because that was when I first heard about Brianna Joy Gray, when she was Bernie Sanders' press secretary. I like to look at the good side as well. Now, I still don't think she should have went to go work for Joe Biden. But just a silver lining, something to think about. Kat Terrell, you said that looked staged. She jumped across the stage and was like, let me get him. I'm like, what is this? What is that? Why is this happening? Thanks so much for the super chat, Aspen Fallen. Who's Symone going to body slam next? Wolf Blitzer. Yikes. Thanks so much for the super chat, Aspen Fallen. Thank you so much for the super chat, Ashura. If you're saying booyah, you must have like JL1. I don't know what that means. Again, you guys got to tell me like these abbreviations. You got to tell me. I used to tell my students the same thing. Like, can you guys tell me what this means? Thanks so much for the super chat, Ashura. Symone never answered why she left Bernie. Whoop. Whoop. Red Precarian says, Sabby Sab's great song, Hold On, I'm Coming. You got to see Daryl's house when he invites other musicians over to jam. They do that song together. I think that's Daryl from Hall & Oates, correct? You can actually go visit. That was something I wanted to do before the pandemic started. You can go visit Daryl's house. Roger Meadows, thanks for the tip on Rockfin. Since infiltrating the Democratic Party didn't work, maybe Black people in Georgia and Arizona are going to have to infiltrate the Republican Party and focus on worker issues during Republican primary instead. And you know what? That may actually happen, Roger. That may actually happen. Thanks so much for the tip on Rockfin. Yes, so his name is Daryl Hall. Hall & Oates. If you guys have never listened to Hall & Oates, you should do so. They have some good songs. They had this song called She's a Man Eater. That's a pretty popular one. Whoa, here she comes. Bruce Jackson said Jen Psaki got the job she wanted. Yeah, I guess so. I wouldn't want that job. I would not want that job. Not with Joe Biden. Are you kidding me? Oh, man. All right, guys. This is my time. It's 8:30. Thanks so much for hanging out with me tonight, guys. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit that like button. That really helps me, guys, because the algorithm is not a fan of those of us in independent media, especially those of us that are newer to this. We are trying to do what we can. So that's why I tweet out my videos a lot. Twitter really helps me with that. But yeah, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate all the support. Tomorrow, come back. It'll be pretty cool. Like I said, I have an associate professor joining. He's going to talk about MMT. So that'll probably be like the third time someone's coming to talk about MMT on here. He's going to talk about it in reference to inflation. We're going to talk about, housing prices and get into that and what Joe Biden and the Biden administration can do to fix a lot of these economic problems that we have in this country that they're just choosing not to do. We really want to spread this across leftist media. So please share that with people that you know about tomorrow. More people need to know about MMT and how it works and things that the Biden administration can do to help the economy. I think that is incredibly important. All right, guys, I got to head out. I'm sorry, but I got to go. You guys are probably going to head over to Jackson Hinkle next. I believe he's after me. So he should be up in about 30 minutes. But thanks so much for hanging out with me, guys. You know how we do this. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.